What is up, my mogs? We're back again with part 2 of the documentary from Noclip about Final Fantasy's history. We finished up the last one yesterday, and I'm dying to keep watching. So let's get into it. Nash, thank you for the 100 biddies. What is this a competition? Are we competing? Oh, so like we did yesterday, when people speak in Japanese, I will read the subtitles because not everyone is going to be like nose to their phone watching me. What I'll do is I'll pause it, read what they say, and then let them talk. Because otherwise, it's a little rude talking over them and a little rude not letting them speak, you know? Got a supervisor position so I can spare a few dollars. Oh my God, Nash.
So what did you
you
think from your perspective?
I really appreciate it, dude. Congrats.
To fix this problem, it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to involve creating a new game. It's going to involve keeping the other game still running. Did you think at that time that that was a solid investment, that that's what Square Enix should be doing, or did you think that it was a risky venture?
単純にそこだけ見るとね、すごく
Did the subtitles turn off? I had them set. Oh, okay, weird. For some reason, the subtitles turned themselves off. Of course, just looking at the particular facet of having to make a game is definitely risky.
単純にそこだけ見るとね、すごくリスクの高い話、多分一般的には多分なるというふうに思うんですけれども。
I just stopped myself from doing that, chat. For a little bit, I got into doing when I was thinking ironically as a joke, and then it started becoming unironic, and that was when it started to get scary, because it's a fine line between being ironically a weeb and being a full-on weeb, and you never want to go full weeb. You never want to do that. You've done that legitimately, bro. But back in my fucking cringy high school anime days, wait, okay. I'm about to out Amanda right now. This is between you and me, chat. If Amanda hears that I talked about this, I will go on a banning spree. When Amanda was younger, she would, so let's say this is like a candy bar here. She would go like this, ready? She'd make the like noise whenever she bit something. Not an all the time thing, but it was like to start eating, she'd go, I was cringy in anime back before it was actually cool. Weird Japanese girl. Oh, dude, I ran an anime convention. I'm right there with you, Witchy. I used to walk around like L because I thought it was cool.
まあさすがに当社はね、ナンバリングタイトルでフラッグシップのタイトルで MMO これだけのタイトルなわけですから。
Sorry about that. But considering this is a numbered Final Fantasy title, one of our flagship titles.
これだけのタイトルなわけですから。
Continuing to allow service as a poorly received game, I feel that would have.
それがこのままサービスが頓挫してしまうと、これは非常に将来的にまずいと。これは
been a larger issue, and it would cause big damage to us as well. I mean, that makes sense. Like when your company is known for Final Fantasy, like inarguably Final Fantasy is their biggest, at least like by name, property. So that having such a blemish on a mainline title makes sense. It makes sense.
やっぱり形状これ非常に
Original 1.0 opening. Gotcha.
ダメージを与えると。
So we believe that the investment to remake the game or to revamp the game
ということで、
is something
再度作り直しと並行してやるということの投資に関しては、これはまあ
that was required, of course, and it was very risky, but I believe it was
はっきり言
something.
ってやっぱやるべきっていうか、まあやらざるを得ないというふうな判断でしたね。ものすごい財務的なリスクがものすごい大きかったですけどね。
There's no way, Kyo, that you immediately clipped the thing I said. I mean, you're calling my bluff. That's basically you asking for me to ban you. And you called my bluff correctly. There's no way I'd do that. I don't think I've ever banned any. That's not true. I've banned one person, I think. That wasn't a bot. Part 2, rewriting history. Is the volume okay on the dock, y'all, or is it too loud?
Hello and welcome back to our series on the fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV Online. We rejoin Yoshida-san and the team at Square Enix at the start of a long adventure.
I'm prefacing this. I think it looks good. Doesn't his hair remind you a little bit of like an ice cream scoop swoosh, like from a soft serve machine? Like it has the little curly cue that goes over in loops. It's a bit loud, okay. But it looks good. Like I'm a curly haired man, but I'm also being reminded of like a vanilla ice cream scoop.
And with players leaving en masse and the clock ticking, it was time for them to formulate a plan. But how exactly do you rebuild an MMO while people are still playing it?
PETA as in PETA from Hunger Games, or PETA like Peter Griffin? PETA.
Yoshida-san set his eyes on a 2013 launch date for the new version of 14 as he wanted to have the game out for fans within the PlayStation 3's lifecycle. But to do this while still patching 1.0, he would have to create an entirely new MMO in less than half the time of most conservative
Mommy Merweb
estimates. So before we get into specifics of what exactly was changed, I wanted to know how he did it. So for a moment, we step away from game design and dive into a critically important
okay, Lalafell, like pitter patter running at the screen's gotta be hilarious.
So for a moment, we step away from game design and dive into a critically important aspect of video games development that we rarely talk about: project management.
Designing an MMO must, I just imagine the timeline for something like this is at least 5 years for anything. And you're being asked to do it in less than half of that probably. When you're designing games, when we talk to people, so much of it is iterative, that you create something and then you refine it and you brush it and then you look at it again, but you didn't have that luxury. You had to make sure that the version of A Realm Reborn that was coming out at that date was the final package. So did that change the way that you had to set up the team and the way your workflow kind of went?
MMORPG の開発
You said it should take about 5 years to design an MMO. I want you to really emphasize that.
に5年が普通だっていうのはもうちょっと強く言っといてください。まずそのスケジュールトラブルを
So, in order to reduce the risk of any sort of
起
schedule
こさない
trouble,
ためのそのマネジメントの
Lalafell remains the most adorable race. I agree. There were some tweaks that I put into managing the staff members that I had.
なんだろうな、言い方がちょっと難しいんですけ
And
ど、
this is kind of difficult to put it well, but you don't have those in 1 in 100.
ものすごく腕のいい、特に100人に1人ぐらいしかいないようなプログラマーがたくさんやっぱりいるわけではないので、かつものすごい
We did need to make a whole lot of assets in a very
短
short
い
amount
期
of
間で
time.
大量のコンテンツやアセットを作らなければいけないので、人がたくさんどうしても
I'm sorry, we didn't have our worship for Yoshi P when he arrived on screen. Can we just take a moment to thank Yoshi P for Yoshi P? Because Yoshi P is life. Yoshi P is everything. And we all respect our Lord and Savior Yoshi P. May he live forever.
も並行作業が多くなるとかかって
All
しまう
praise Yoshi P. Thank you, Witchy.
能
Thank
力
you.
のこの差をある意味高いレ
Way to match it to the average skill level, so to speak.
ベルに合わせるんじゃなくて低いレベルに合わせるというか、この言い方が難しいな。
Try to lower the chances of risk happening, and I have a little bit more to say.
平均的なところに合わせるっていうそのマネージメントをすることでリスクをな
Try
く
to
すっ
lower
て
the
ことを
chances
し
of
ま
risk happening. Oh, I read that
し
one.
た。この後ちょっともうちょっと詳しく話します。で、
So what I did in order to make this more viable is, say, for example,
何
we're
をしたか
creating
と
a
いう
job.
と、とにかく一つのタスク、例えばドラ
Let's
グー
say
ンという
the Dragoon
ジョブ
job.
を作る。
At first glance, you might think it's just one single task. Create the Dragoon job. But it's not.
っていう時に、今言ったドラグーンっていうジョブを作るっていうタイトルって1タスクに見えるけど、そうじゃない実際には。
Because, of course, you have the job, but you have the different actions
何個のドラグーンにはアクションが必要で、
that are assigned to a particular job. And so you would need
そのアクショ
programming
ン一つプログラミングするのに、
for a
どれ
single
だけか
job
かるか。
action. So we'd figure out how much time it takes to
もち
do
ろんそ
that.
のドラグーンの特定のアクションを作る
In order to do that, you would need the specification documents.
ために仕様書も必要だし、
So, say, for example, we took a look at the task of creating a specification document.
仕様書を作った後は
Bro's delving into the
Designing
nitty gritty.
some-
Damn.
なんだろう
It's
使
2
用書
hours
に
to
例えば
create.
2時間かかる
Then a request for review is sent to me, and then my review takes about 15 minutes.
なら、それを例えば僕に確認依頼が飛んで僕がチェックするのに例えば15分かかる。そのぐらい一つのタスクに見
Went through everything thoroughly. That's the level of detail that went into it. I will say that everything needed to be passed underneath his nose. If it was any other person than Yoshi P in this situation, I'd go, oh, that's over management. But I feel like for Yoshi P, it's not at all. It's like he's not there to critique your work. He's there to like uplift your work. And even though it needs to pass underneath him, it's something that it's not he's gonna like ream you out or change it or claim it as his own. He's gonna take what you have and lift it to the highest peak it can go. Yoshi P is there to uplift you.
えるものを徹底的にもう細かく分解させるっていう
We boiled it down to the absolute minimum task element to manage our workload. I think later he says, I don't recommend this for anyone else. We did this because it was the only way to get it done in time. Oh yeah, 100%. Like, there is so much that's done here for Realm Reborn that is only beautiful because of the team that created it and their passion. If it was any other way, like a corporate manager asking people to do this, it would be horrible beyond belief. But while still terrible that they had to go through it, they all were like a collective together choosing to do it, you know? I think that's why it makes it so interesting for me.
なんだろうな
Can you imagine with Activision or EA? Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
ミニマムな
So I think by doing that, the staff members may have been a little bit stressed. A little bit.
管理方法を聞いたので、まあ、スタッフは結構スト
Of
レス
seeing all of
だ
that,
ろう
but that's how I started to break
と
it
思い
down.
ます。
I mean, he's creating
Yeah, so-
manageable bite-sized things for people to be able to work on. He's taking a monumental task and putting it in a minuscule format and saying, all right, this is what we're going to be doing on this minute level. And he's creating a foundation to build everything else on because it's such a daunting task. So he's right. It has to be so micromanaged because otherwise, where do you go? What do you do? There's so many different things to do for the game. It must be paralyzing if you don't have a plan like that.
このさらにシングルタ
It's still bad even when it's your heroes doing it. Oh, I said it was bad, Kyo. I'm saying the only reason why it's not 100% bad is they all chose it. Like, it's still bad. It's still a bad thing they did. Like, that much overwork is terrible. The only reason why I'm giving it any praise is because of who's doing it and how they're doing it. But 100% Kyo. Yoshi P is amazing and I love him. And he is incredible for the work he managed to do. But also, it's not a good working environment at all. And it's not healthy for people.
タスクに対して最もこのタスクが自分で早く終わると
So how long
予
would it
測さ
take
れ
for
る
them
時
to do
間
a single minimum
この時
task?
間でこのタスク
When you can say, if I finish the task in this time, I would
が
reward
完了したら
myself.
自分を褒めてもいい逆にこの
In the other extreme, if it takes me longer than this to
タ
finish
スク
my
が
task,
この時間以上かかってしまったら給料をもらう資
I'd be
格がない
ashamed to be accepting pay. Sort of a worst case scenario. That's fucked up. That, up until now, I was like, okay, you know, that's pretty, I don't like that. I'm ashamed to be accepting pay because I didn't work fast enough. That one's fucked up.
っていうぐらいその最悪のケースっていうそのミニマムで終わる
And each staff member assess the minimum and maximum time it would take for them
マックスかかってもこれだけだろうっていう時間を
to
両
complete a
方
particular task, and I would have them report those
申
timings.
告させてその平均値で基本的に
And then
は
I would take the average time it would take looking at those numbers.
スケジュールを管理するっていう本当に
Then that's the number I would base my sort of scheduling off of.
のミニマムマイクロマ
So
ネ
it's like a very minimal task, like micromanaging that
ージメン
aspect
ト
of it.
マイクロすぎるぐらいのマイクロマネージメントをしてましたねそれをウィー
And
ク
so I did that on a weekly basis. At first, that my staff members
最初はウィークで
Would
みんなそのやり方に慣れてもらうために毎週1週間
get used to
で
that system, and once we go through the work week, I'll see the results. Literally cannot believe an employer when they say we, the employees, accepted the workload required to do things we wanted done. Good point. Maybe I am being blinded by my hero worship. I guess one of the main reasons why is I see a lot of other people voicing the similar thing on Yoshi's team, but they are like, I mean, they're not the boots in the ground. Well, I guess they are all boots in the ground. I guess more, they're not the grunts in the office. They're, you know, Soken and, you know, himself and the people more at the forefront of the community. That's a really good point, Kyo.
そのマネジメントを回してで1週間経つと結果が出るのでさらにそこに個人パラメータ
Every time they report something, I can start seeing the individual parameters.
例えば吉田はやたらとミニマムをこう
Like for example, Yoshida reported the minimum amount of time
短い
each
時間
time.
で申告するけど結局タ
When
ス
you look at the actual results, it's leaning more towards the maximum amount.
クが終わってみるとマックスに寄りがちだなってなった場合は
And so when I would go back and sort of take the average amount,
50% で見積もるんじゃなくてもうその
I would literally take the 50% amount. I will know that this
係数
person
をかけて
tends
吉田は
to
マックス側によるからきっと次の週
lean
の
more
ス
towards
プ
the
リントは
maximum side. So I would sort of add that to my estimate for the following week. And so I would take a look at that for all my staff
どんどん
members.
こうで個人特性までそうやって管
And
理
sort
し
of get a personal snapshot from my staff.
てたので1日の稼働
And also for the number of work hours per day. I mean, typically we would think 8
時間
hours.
は8時間ではありますけど、まあ、トイレに行ったりっていう時間も必要だし
But you need to factor in bathroom breaks in different meetings.
あと必ずミーティングやその会議室でのミーティングじゃなか
And this is not the only meetings that would take place in a
ったと
conference
して
room.
もスタッフと仕様の打ち合わせを絶対にそのデスク
You talk with your teammates desk to desk about
デ
certain
スクだってフェイスとフェイス
specifications.
でやることもあると思うので
So I would
1
count
日
that
の
as a meeting as well. So I actually calculated each
稼働は
workday
6時間で計算してましたねその時は全員6時間
to contain 6 working hours. And so we did that for all.
8時間では見ないで大体慣れてきたらそれをまあ2週
And once we got used to it, we would extend the period that I was doing the
間スプリ
calculation.
ントに変えて
Bathroom breaks, Amazon would like a word with you. Yeah, Yoshi, why don't you just have piss bottles? Come on. Although I will say it, like, even though he's asking a lot from his staff, he's saying that they're only 8-hour days. So that's kind of nice. I mean, it's not like the crunch that the video game industry usually does where you're like sleeping at work. Granted, I'm pausing in the middle of a documentary, commenting on something that I barely know about. So next sentence, he'd be like, and then we upped it to 14 hours. But 8-hour days and personally factoring in 2 hours for meetings and breaks is, I mean, that's nice. He was including those in his calculation so we could determine if there were enough people to actually make the deadline. Yes.
あとは毎朝必ずスタンドアップミーティングをしてそれぞれの
Went
セクシ
from
ョン
weekly to bi-weekly. And also I would make sure to do a stand-up meeting
自分のタスクが今どうなってるのか誰かのタスクが遅れてるせいで自分のタスクに取り
on
掛か
every
れない
morning report of the status of where you
というの
are.
は毎
Hopefully
朝
not
スタン
to
ドアップミーティン
everyone.
グをして
Maybe just a one-on-one.
あの
And then if there were any outstanding tests from the cross-functional teams,
では
that
このタ
is,
スクを入れ替えてこっちを先にやってくれないとこの人が止まってしまう
stopping your work from progressing, we need to have
や
it identified. So that's what we would report on a daily basis as well.
ってましたねだからス
It was like kind of a scrum method, a little bit modified, but very similar.
クラムっていうそのマネジメント手法のちょっと変形
The
型
sort of management style.
ただ最後に言っ
But this sort of micromanagement style, I would not recommend it at
ときま
all.
すけどこのマイクロマネジメント普通じゃないのでおすすめし
It's only because we were trying to recreate an MMO in less than 2 years.
ないですよまあ2年弱で MMORPG を作る逆に言うと
I'd have to convince my staff members saying it's not going to be more than 2
Nothing
years.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
only 2 years.
Kakarazu.
Only. Danganronpa reference spotted. A body's been discovered. ボロロロロロ。
終わるからこのマネジメントだから今は我慢してって言ってやってもらったものなので一
So I would strongly recommend not to do
般的には
this.
絶対お勧めしないです細かすぎます
I mean, anyone can come in and say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna rebuild the game. Follow me." But he came in with, this huge Excel that had all of these lists of everything on it. What we're going to do here, what we're going to do here. This is when we're going to do them by, and this is what we're going to do here. And to see that, it's like, okay, this isn't just a stopgap type of thing where a president's like, okay, crazy here, let's just change the leader and hopefully things will, get better. It was an actual, okay, this guy really wants to do
He's
this.
so cute, right,
He has
Mystic?
this plan.
Yoshida had them running like a well-oiled machine, so it was time to get to work. First things first, they had to start the rollout of patches for 1.0, but a critical part of the failure of the first game was the poor
Grapes. Low poly grapes spotted. Chat, it's the grapes.
communications the development team had with their community. To keep diehard fans on board during this protracted period of redevelopment, they had to be a lot more transparent.
What we explained to players at very first is it was failure. Failure. So we need to restart the game. But we at that timing we didn't announce the. Relaunch. Reborn is not announced, but we are going to fix this game.
Hell yeah.
We need more communication. So just listen.
That voice crack. Oh no. Oh, chat, I'm having a voice crack. Oh god. The stupid thing about squapes is there are other less low polygon grapes in the game. And then when they removed those squapes, I was sad. The squapes are so good though.
The older changes, plan changes. So some, upper management people doesn't like this because if you show this to the players, player knows what we will do. So, after that, you did this, but you didn't do this, you didn't this. Everyone can check that. So, some people doesn't really like that way, but when
Mystic, put
Yoshida-san
pictures in the
and
Discord.
myself are discussing how
You live forever in
we
people's
deal
great
with
and
the
horrible
community.
cosplay.
What we need to do is to establish the trust.
確かに
Of course, if you look at the number of players Final Fantasy XIV has
今
now,
の14のそのユーザーベースから見れば当時のユーザーベースはものすごい小さかったと思う。今と比較すると。
it may seem like a small amount of people, but back then a lot of media and
ただ
players were
メディアの
bashing Final Fantasy XIV. They were saying Final Fantasy is done and over with.
皆さんからもそのプレイヤ
I
ー
do
からも
remember that period.
そのファイナルファンタジー14はもうダメだ。
And they would criticize the people who stayed with
む
us.
しろなんであんなダメなゲーム遊んでるの君たち。
They
どうか
say,
してるんじゃ
why
な
would
い
you
の
play such a
って
game? But the people who did say with that fan
言われ
base,
ながらもいやファイナルファンタジー
these are the people who said, well, it's Final Fantasy XIV. They're going to do something about it.
シリーズだから絶対何とかしてくれるはずだ。いやこれはこれで
Or I
僕ら
still
は
enjoy playing the game regardless. Leave us alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
楽しんでるからほっといてくれ。その
I
11
mentioned that 11 had a lot of its troubles
だ
at
って最
first,
初の頃はいろいろあったけどきっと良くなる
but they believed that things would get better, and so they
はずって
continued
言っ
playing.
て数はもちろん今と比較したらすごく小さいそ
So numbers-wise, yes, it may seem small, but those are the very
のコ
people
ミュニティだったかもしれないけど誰よりもス
who
クエア
supported Square Enix and Final Fantasy throughout all of
ニック
this.
スやファイナルファンタジーのことを応援してくれている人た
And
ちだ
so
った
if we
ので
ignored them, I thought Final Fantasy would probably be over.
この人たちを無視するんだと多分この先もうファイナルファンタジーはダメだろうと思ってた
Above anything else, we had to treat this element as most important.
のでむしろ何よりも大切にしなきゃいけない部分だったっていうのが最も大
That
き
was
い
the
理
biggest
由
reason.
それは
It's a trust that we have had to get back from those people who stuck with us throughout the years. I think by now, not only has the trust been brought back, I feel like it's the inverse. Everyone trusts Yoshi P with the whole fucking company. At this point, Yoshi P is Square Enix. Square Enix is Yoshi P. I feel like the trust has come in spades.
何億円使おうが回収できない後でコストだと思うので信頼ってそういうことなのかなっていう
It
ふう
didn't matter if we spent millions of dollars. It's a cost spent for something.
に会社にもプレゼンテーションしましたし僕もそう思って
Wouldn't
た
have
か
been able to
ら
repair later.
まあ
I
続
believe
け
that's what trust is.
ましたけど
This is why I'm not flipping out completely about my AST rework. It's because I trust him. Yeah, he's the Astrologian rework and what Lancer as well. No, not Lancer, Dragoon. Those are both being reworked, if I remember correctly.
あともう一つやっぱり大きな
So that's why I felt was important about continuing
ポイ
the
ント
patch
は
1.x
本当に
series.
ファイナルファンタジー14がリバンプして
That's
その
why I
大
explained to the corporation as well.
逆転するためには絶対に彼らの力が必要だっていう
We needed their help. We needed them to be on our
ことも
side.
もう一つ重要な 意味を持っていると考えてました。
Next, Yoshida split his team in half, some working on the new version of 14 and others working on the updates to 1.0, what he called the guts version of the game. But with so much of the game requiring fixing, where do you even start?
まず一番最
First
初
of
に
all, I think I wanted the interface to be
やらなきゃい
playable.
けないと思っ
I
たの
mean, yeah. First and foremost, the interface should work. I mean, the interface should be playable.
はインターフェースをとにかく
I'm sorry to say this, but the first time I touched 14, it was
な
just
んて言うんだろ
awful.
うな、最低限
Kyo always needs a Lego job.
遊べるよう
Exactly.
に正直本当申し訳ない話なんですけど、僕最初にやっぱ
I could not play. Literally, this is supposed to have been only on the
りオリジナルの
PC.
14触った時にインターフェースがあまりにもなんだろう、ひどすぎて話にならない。
But it was required for you to have a game controller.
だって PC バージョンしか出てないのにゲームパッドがないとまともに遊べない。
Getting Bahuma blast. Hey, I want to get Bahuma blasted. You know what I'm saying? I want Bahuma to blast me.
聞いたことがないそんな PC ゲーム。
It was ridiculous not to be able to play with a mouse and keyboard. I
マ
mean,
ウス
yeah.
キーボードでまともに遊べないゲームなんか
And so no matter how much content of our jobs were created for the game,
見たことがなかったので、いくらその
if the interface won't allow you to get there, people won't be able to enjoy it.
コンテンツを作ろうがジョブを作ろうがインターフェースがダメだったらコンテンツの面白さに到達する前
So I did want to take the time, first and foremost, to be
に
very
人はゲームを
thorough.
やめてしまうので、とにかくインターフェースを直さないとゲームにならない。
Furry? Excuse you, Witchy. That's called a scaly. How dare you? So-
っていうふうに考えたので、一番最初に
But repairing the
So-
interface and making it
丁
playable.
寧に取り掛かったのはやっぱりインターフェースの改修っていうところですね。僕最初にプレ
The first time we touched the game, I quit in about 5
イした時
minutes.
5分ぐらいでやめちゃいましたもん。でもね、
I think this is really silly, but I didn't know how to quit.
でクイットの仕方が分からなくて、
You're stuck here
の
forever.
右上にあ
I
る
didn't know what to do, so I tried to go to the top right corner,
×ボタンを押そうとしたんですよ。で押したら
to the X button, and I clicked it, and a dialogue pops up saying,
このままゲームを終了するとデータがセーブ
if you quit, your progress might not be saved.
されない可能性があります。それでもよろしいですかってダイアログが出るのね。いやいや、よ
Of course, I'm an engineer, and I understand that it's consistently
くないでしょ。
overwriting
いや、僕はエンジニアだからサーバーに常に書き込んでる
your
か
progress onto the server, and it's supposed to be some kind of
ら、そんな
disclaimer.
わけないじゃんって思ってるんですけど、万が一のことがあるから多分出てるんですよ、そのダイアログ。
Those rare cases that a save might fail.
でも意味がわからない。
But I mean, it's unbelievable. The dialogue popping up there.
でそうなるともう怖くて押せないですよね。
People will be scared to quit the game. Exactly. Keep them trapped forever. You want to get to do Bahuma Blast? Sorry. You want to get to do Bahuma Blast until you finish Palace of the Dead and move on to Heaven on High. Ooh. I do get Death Layer, though. I'll take that.
なんだこれでノーって押すと
So, I mean, if you click no, you're going to go back to the game screen.
またゲームにいるわけでしょ。X を押すダイアロ
So
グ
you press X, and the dialogue pops up again. So, how am I supposed to quit this
でしょ。
game?
どうやってクイットするんだよこのゲーム。
Interface isn't sexy. It's not something you tend to hear a lot about in video games coverage.
Well, if we're being honest, the better an interface is the more you don't notice it's an interface. Like, the whole point of an interface is to make it as easy as possible for the player to access the pieces of the game they want to. The more streamlined and easy to access and almost invisible your interface is, the better. And by invisible, I don't mean visibly invisible. I mean, like, you're going through it and you're like, oh, this isn't an interface. I'm not going through menus in a video game.
Because really, when it's done correctly, you're not supposed to.
Exactly. When it's done correctly, you're not supposed to notice it. Thank you, documentary guy. I summarized your whole point a second before you did. We're on the same wavelength.
Notice it. So when the early patches for the game concentrated on interface and quality of life updates,
And it's no clip, not documentary guy. I'm sorry.
much of the community began to get frustrated. The team needed to fix it quickly, so Yoshida employed the help of a Square veteran, one of the developers, on that original 1.0 task force.
はい、
My name is Hiroshi Minigawa. I work on the user
長川
interface.
博と申します。ファイナルファンタジー14ではユーザーインターフェ
Not only the design structure of it, but also the visual aspect as well. Ooh. Okay. Okay.
ースの、設計デザインとあとアート的なビジュアルの方も担当しています。よろしくお願いします。今
So I'm 47 years old right now, but I joined the company when I was 25, so 22 years ago now.
47歳なんですけれども、25の時に入社したのでもう22年経ちますね。
Damn. That's impressive.
当
At the time, I wasn't even Square Enix. It was still Square.
当時はまだスクエアエニックスがスクエアという会社だったので、ですね、ファ
I first worked in the Final Fantasy Tactics. Ooh. I have heard the Final Fantasy Tactics is considered one of the GOAT games.
イナルファンタジータクティクスの、アートディレクターを担当していました。なので
So typically, if it were a standalone game, I would consider less information
普
on
段
screen.
は少ない情報、なるべく少ない情報やシンプルな表
It's
示
just more simple and streamlined.
を心がけているんですけれども、今回は
But with Final Fantasy 14, I had to consider more about customization.
カスタマイズ性というか、よりツール的な考え方でいろんなプ
Almost like a tool, utilizing it as an extension of
レ
the
イヤー
player.
がそれぞれ自分の好きな
Your sword should feel like an extension of your arm, not like a piece of metal. Chat, this is for you. I'm going to show off for you. Don't worry. Don't worry, chat. I got you. You gotta make sure your sword is sharp, chat. You gotta make sure when you thrust it, it feels like a part of your body. Don't cringe at me. Don't you do that. Don't you do that. That's rude.
なカスタマイズができるようにっていうことを普段よりも強く意識してます。まあやはりバトル
So the
が
battles in 14 move at a relatively speedy tempo.
テンポのスピーディーなテンポのゲームなので、カーソルフォー
And
カスを
so I believe that using your D-pad to move and your cursor focus.
十字キー、十字キーで動かしながら
Your bird in 14's named Sora. Flash, do you lash out because you see yourself in me? Are you calling yourself cringe through my eyes? Is that what you're doing, Flash? Should we have therapy session together, Flash? What do you think?
決定するっていう、まあそういう操作性ではちょっとゲームにならないだろうというところが
I already wanted to implement a cross hotbar to select a
あった
different
の
one.
で、まあかなり最初の頃にクロスホットバーと
Cross hotbar is pretty
いうアクションを選択するインターフェースを考えたんですけれども、ただ
It's a system I'm familiar with because I had been creating very similar systems.
このインターフェース自体は割と昔から他のゲームで自分自身作ったり
On other games that I had worked on and was utilizing it.
使ったりしていたものだったので絶対それでいけるだろうなという思いはありました。
So I didn't feel like it was too difficult of a challenge.
なので実はそこはあまり
Bro
苦
flexing.
労していなかったりします。
Bro really came in and was like, hey, I'm gonna remake this and it's not a challenge.
まあ
So when we
例
changed
え
in
ば
something, it
表
displayed on
現
the
方
screen
法
there.
が変わると必ず
Of course, people would take notice. It was such and such previously, but now it's
そ
this.
の僕はこっちの方が良かったっていう話は来るんですね。例えばインベントリーは
So, for example, inventory used to be listed in text, but once it becomes
以前は
icons,
テキストで表示されていたんですけれどもアイコンになると当然その
people had complained that, oh, I don't know what that is. Which item is what?
なんか似ていてよくわからないとかなので両方欲しいっていう話は受けて両方
And so can we have both a text listing and an icon? It's kind of difficult to do both.
作るのは大変なんだよなっていうそういうところがありました。まあ今でも
So we actually have a list of outstanding items that we had since the release of A Realm Reborn.
ARR のリリースからその積み残しの仕事リストみ
And some of these items get implemented even over 2 years after launch.
たいなのが
Damn.
あるんですけれどもまあ2年以上経って今入るみたいな機能もたまにあったりします。
でもう一つ
Next time I really felt need of revision or change was the battle system.
バトルシステムをとにかく変更しないと
That weird like
コンテンツが
ATB pseudo turn-based combat while you're just kind of standing there. Yeah. If you don't have a proper working battle system, you won't be able to make
作れない
content.
つまりあまり良くないバトルシステムをベースにして、コンテンツを作ったとしてもコンテンツが面白くならないだから
Revisiting the system, revising the interface is number one in the battle system, and then came content.
順番としてはインターフェースを修正しながらバトルシステムを変更してやっとその先にコンテンツを作るっていうのが
I think that was the proper order that I wanted to tackle them.
まあ順番としては僕は真っ当だと思った当時のバトルシステム
The party system back then, you would have been able to make a party with 15 people. Damn.
当時は15人でパーティーが組めてあるでしか
On
も
top of that, the magic points or MP, there wasn't a way to manage it.
マジックポイント MP の管理っていうものがほぼなかったので
So the healer could cast the strongest cure spell, Curaga, or Cure 3.
当時のファイナルファンタジー14の中で最強の回復魔法だったケアルガーっていう
No matter how many times it would cost that your MP didn't fall to 0. So you just never ran out of MP? I mean, that's kind of like modern. Because a lot of our stuff doesn't even cost MP anymore.
スペルをずっと連打してても MP がゼロにならない延々ケアルガーして OK で他の魔法
So
いらな
why
い
do
よ
you
ね
need
じ
any
ゃ
other spells?
あとにかく
So it was basically 15 people in a party trying to beat this monster,
当時は
casting
15
all
人で一つのモンスターを殴りまくって回復しまく
healing
っ
spells that you want, and it was just really rough. Very rough.
てっていうすごい大雑把なゲームだったのでこれを戦略的な
So I want to
バ
make
トル
sure
シ
it
ス
was
テ
changing to something more strategic.
ム計算式に変えていかないと
What? Don't just spam the most like, damage thing? Come on.
だから
And so I was trying to go through and revise my
UI を直しなが
interface.
らバトルシステムを変更して
I was trying to make sure that we fixed the battle system as well.
でそれらの準備をしなが
While I
ら
was making those preparations, one of the big challenges
最
or
も重要
like
だと思ってたのはファイナルファンタジー
an
エレ
issue that I wanted to tackle was to implement more Final Fantasy elements into the game. Yeah, one would hope that there's Final Fantasy elements in a Final Fantasy game.
メントっていうものをとにかく入れていくことっていうのが次のというか
The
最
time
も
there
大
was
き
no
な課題
specific
だっていう
jobs.
ふうに
There was no
思っ
paladin.
てましたなぜなら当時ジョブもなかったナイトもいないブラックメイジもいない
There was no black mage or white mage. You couldn't ride
ホワイト
chocobos.
メイジもいないこれはファイナルファンタジーなのかチョコボに乗れるわけでもないしイフリートは出
If it made its appearance, but you couldn't fight it.
てきてるけ
No
ど
paladin sounds like an upgrade. Womp womp. Womp womp. Paladin mains in shambles. We don't got no paladin mains in chat right now. It's sad. It's sad. No one's to defend themselves.
戦えないし一体何なんだこのゲームだから
So I thought that we needed to do was first include those
僕らが
elements.
コンテンツとして入れていかなきゃいけなかったのはやっぱりイフリートやその
Ifrit,
ガ
Garuda,
ルーダ
what do you call a summon?
いわゆる召喚獣って一般的に
I felt that we really needed to implement those as boss
呼ばれて
battles.
るものとのボスバトルを入れ
Started as a paladin, maybe swap to red mage. Red mage is so good. I miss it so much.
ていかなきゃいけないと思ったしチョコボに乗れないなんて
Of course, chocobos. This is an MMO. You gotta be able to ride a chocobo.
MMO なのに話にならないからチョコボにちゃんと乗れるようにしなきゃいけないし何よりジ
And
ョ
then the job system as well. There weren't specific
ブがないのも
jobs.
FF じゃない少なくとも
Identify Final Fantasy with the job system, so that had to be in there.
僕は FF だと思わないので
Job system's great.
だ
I
った
agree.
らジョブをちゃんと入れていこう
So as I was trying to revise and revamp the interface and
っ
the
ていうと
battle
ころ
system
がでもそれもやっぱりさっき言ったようにインターフェースとバトルシステムが直ってなければ
and lay the foundation for those elements to be implemented.
いいものにはならないのでまあだか
I
ら
was going through that and created the different
回収をやりながら
specifications.
きちん
And slowly but surely, I did notice the response to the changes that we were
とのを
making.
中盤以降は続けてそこからやっ
People
ぱ
were
りグッ
starting to
とゲーム
mention that, oh yeah, this is a good
の
game.
評判はやっぱり Q14 も良くなっていって
And the number of players also have been steadily, more slowly, but
プレイヤーもず
steadily
っと増え続けていったので少しずつですけどあれは僕
increasing,
らもす
which
ごい
also was great emotional support for
励ま
us.
されましたねやっぱりちゃんと面白いものを
It
作っ
was
て
very motivating to see that. It made us relieved
みんなプレイをしてくれるっていう
that as long as we're
数字
making
の
a good, solid game, people will appreciate
上
it.
からもよく見えたので 当時の
And the time of release, 7 jobs at the same time. 7 jobs at the same time is insanity.
7つ一気にリリースされた7つのジョブ
I forgot which patch it was, but 7 jobs at the same
パッチナン
time.
バーは忘れちゃったけど7つのジョブがいっぺんに実装されたんですけどたった一人のゲ
There was one single game designer that was handling that.
ームデザイナーが作ったんで
Holy.
The team had their sights set on what needed to be changed and how they were going to do it. For the first time in years, they were feeling hopeful, and even better, players were finally starting to respond with positivity. But right as they were settling into this new reality and finding their rhythm, disaster struck.
No! Whoa. Chad, I got spooked by that. Chad, I got spooked. Man, the siren noise, the alarm, it spooked me. Come on. That's so mean.
For 6 minutes, Japan shook. A 9.0 earthquake had struck 200 miles northeast of Tokyo, and a resulting tsunami devastated coastal regions.
remember
What
hearing about
followed
this
was a
in the news when I
humanitarian
was
and
younger.
infrastructural disaster that can be barely comprehended. While the country rallied to help those affected, Tokyo suffered aftershocks and frequent electrical blackouts. I asked Yoshida-san if he'd like to share how this had affected the team.
まあ東京も
Even if it was a couple hundred miles north of Tokyo, we did feel the quake as well.
そうは言ってもすごい揺れたので
Some people decided that it was safer to stay in the
やっぱり
office.
まあ当日は
I mean, it may
ね
have been
会社に泊まった方が安全だって
infrastructurally.
言って
So they would stay overnight and just continue to watch the news.
帰らないでずっとニュースを見てるっ
Of
てい
course,
う
yes, there were family members that were
人
affected
たちもい
within
たし
our
やっぱり東北に家族とかね親戚とか
development team as well. So, you know, at that point, I
いるスタッフ
didn't
も
feel
当然
that
い
it
たので
was
まあもう正直言うともう
appropriate to continue pushing forward with development.
開発どころではなかったのは確かにそうですねで開発なんか優先すべきじゃないと思うので
If we're being a developer, they're human beings.
やっぱりみん
I
な
love Yoshi
開
P
発者
so
の前に
much.
人なのでまあ日本中で
And all over Japan, electrical power was needed. And, you know, when we
電
thought
力が足り
about
なくなっていたのでまあ本当に
how we can help, and it might not have made such a large
些
impact.
細なのかもしれないけどサーバー
But
を全部
just our way to contribute, we decided to power down the servers
その
for a certain amount of time. We thought, how could we show our support
まあ少しでも協力できることがあればっていう
and
こ
to contribute toward the situation to be of any help?
とでプレイヤーの皆さんにも申し訳ないんですけどサ
We
ーバー
felt
を
sorry for our players, but we decided to temporarily power down the
一
servers.
定期間止めますっていう話をしてそんな時期でしたねただ
So once we turned the power back on to our servers, I actually received a few
サーバ
letters
ーの稼働を再開してからプレイヤーの方からまあお手紙をいただいたりそのしたん
from the players and letting me know that they were able to contact their
good.
friends. Oh my gosh, yeah. This might have been the only form of communication that people had with their overseas friends. Wow. I hadn't even considered that Final Fantasy being a vehicle to communicate safety. That is beautiful in like a haunting way.
エオルゼアの中でその遠くにいる友達
Their
の
friends actually logged in and they were able to
無事が確認できたエオルゼアがあったから電話も通じない
confirm that their status, well, telephones and whatnot were not available.
連絡の手段がなかったところエオルゼアの中にログインしてきてく
They were able to log into Eorzea and they were able to check on their
れたこ
friends.
とでその無事だったっていうのが分かった逆にその周りの人たちの情報っていうのも分かったって
They
いう
confirmed they were okay. So, yes, if power is needed,
お話をいくつかいただいてまあ電力が足りなければね当然そのサーバーなんて落とせばいいかなと思うんですけどそうじゃ
but at
な
the
い
same
限り
time, I
は
also felt that keeping Eorzea was going to also be beneficial.
続けるっていうこともそのエオルゼアを維持しておくっていうことも
There were actually comments that thanked us for keeping Final Fantasy
一つの
XIV.
なんかこうサポートなのかなって思った機会でもありましたねその時はだから続けてくれてありがとうって言われたんですよそのファイナルファンタジー14を開発で
And
まあ
also from a development standpoint, the content of the battle that we're going to
あとは
face.
最も大きかったのは実はイフリートの次に戦う
After Ifrit was actually going to be a Leviathan, which is like a sea
ボスはリ
serpent.
ヴァイアさんの予定でリヴァイアさんをかなりの速度で作ってたんですけど
So at that point, we decided, no, there's no way we can release that content. Yeah, I imagine releasing Leviathan after an earthquake / tsunami is probably bad optically and emotionally, you know? Remember doing things like that after huge hurricanes and other stuff, having guild members log in and everyone hurry over and cheer? That's so adorable, Flash. I love that.
とてもじゃないけどリリースなんかできないっていう話で
So we had to quickly change course to implement.
だからイフリートの後モーグリが実装されてるのはそれが理由ですねあ急いで
The Moogle battle, so we had to fix that so we could release the content
モーグリ
instead.
を作り直したというか企画し直したのでいやそん
I
な
don't think it was too difficult to get to work. Of course, there were people who
ことはなかったですよみんなやっぱりそれぞれの
couldn't come to work, and Square Enix itself had to close for a few days.
あの時期まあ、会社に来れない
And so there was a period of time we didn't go to
人た
work.
ちもまあ何日か会社も休みにしてるんでただどっちかっていうと
But I think we're all thinking about what we could do in order to
そ
help.
の自分たちにできることをやろうっていうみんな感じだった
But was there any point in all of just going to Fukushima and jumping
そ
in
うじゃ
there?
あ全員で福島に行って何か僕らが活
I'm
動
sure there
す
was
る
a
こ
flood
とっ
of
て
people going to Fukushima trying to help.
意味があるのかあれだけたくさんの人
And when we considered about it, we wanted to provide an
た
environment
ちが押しかけて
where
る中でだったら僕らはその
afterwards, when those people who were affected by the incident get a chance to settle down,
なんだろう彼らが落ち着いた時にゲームを楽しく遊べるように僕らは
they would have a comfortable environment in game.
結局ゲーム作るしか脳がないの
A
で
sanctuary, even like a haven. Like they created a place for people to retreat to not have to deal with the fact that their life is crumbling a bit, and to be able to connect with other people and share those stories and commiserate and find support. Like that's why Final Fantasy is such a beautiful community to me, is it just feels like everyone's there to support each other. Obviously there are bad apples. I'm not saying that the community is perfect, but from what I've experienced coming into the Final Fantasy community with Endwalker, it's like 90% just beautiful people.
まあゲームを作り続ける
Ultimately, what can we do? Well, we make
の
video
は
games.
結局何よりなのか
So we felt continuing to make games what we could
ってい
offer.
うこういう話は
I think that was the sort of stance that we were
しなかっ
taking.
たですけどみんなそういう感じで
We didn't necessarily talk about it verbally, but that was the kind of stance that we had as we
決
returned
して
to
きて
work.
ましたよ仕事に
No community is ever going to be perfect. Anyone who tells you otherwise is next level copium. Flash, you know me. I'm a streamer. I have to say, don't worry, I'm not being hyperbolic, you know? Because if I say the community is amazing, someone else is going to go, actually, this happened to me, you know? So I have to be like, I understand their bad parts, but. Ooh, the music.
Over the coming months, the team would release patch after patch for 1.0. 1.17 introduced 8-player parties and more stable network infrastructure.
Oh, giant
1.18
flowers.
dropped in June 2011 and was a huge patch that made the game much more playable. Level caps lowered for story quests.
Bro, the walk cycle on this Lalafell.
June 2011 and
is
was a huge
skating.
patch that made the game much
Bro hits a patch of ice, Looney Tune sounds.
more playable. Level caps lowered for story quests. It added grand companies, class adjustments, instance dungeons, and auto attack. Yes, would you believe this game still didn't have auto attack? It featured a more user-friendly map interface and also scrapped the controversial fatigue system.
And so we need to take this concept that Yoshida-san has created, make it fit with the current world, write stories around it, make the transition seem seamless, and then in the new world, make it so that there's still some connection with that old world that will be understood by those core players, but won't alienate new players. It won't be something like, oh, you didn't play that old, the stuff in 1.0, so you're going to be completely lost, because we don't want to do that either.
I mean, they succeeded. I did not feel lost at all.
We want to
when I
get
started.
new players to come that didn't play the original one, and we don't want to have them have to play the original to understand this one. And so trying to work the story that way was, it was challenging, but it was a lot of fun. We got to try a lot of things. We had a lot of freedom, then especially on the 1.x stuff, because in a sense, it would only be released, seen for a few months, and then it would be gone forever. And so, on one hand, that's really exciting because we can do whatever we want. We can create these crazy stories, have these crazy characters, all of these
Hey, it's a Lalafell Queen.
crazy in all these crazy situations,
Grab on.
and go, you know,
Oh, he has two
balls to the
arms.
wall. But on the other hand, we're working day and night on something that only a few thousand people are going to see and will be gone in 6 months. I really think, I mean, I look back at it now, I think we did a lot of our best work during that one point. And it's sad that no one is ever going to see that. Maybe, you know, there's some videos up on YouTube where people can still go back and check them out. But a lot of, you know, some of the best stories, some of the most crazy stuff.
This is an interesting question I'm thinking of, chat. Are there private servers of the original, like, this period? Because I know there's oftentimes private servers of older MMOs. Like, are there private servers of the original Final Fantasy XIV before A Realm Reborn?
Went on during that 1.x period because it was pretty much no holds barred. Anything can happen. We had like crazy cults, and you had like, you know, people from the Garlean Empire. There was like propaganda, giant dragons and machines, and it was just anything goes in type of situation there, and it was just really a lot of fun.
I don't know. Maybe I'll try to figure that out.
signified
It'd
the
be cool to
1-year
see what it was
anniversary.
like.
Players finally got personal chocobos, and in the distance, one light in the night sky burnt slightly brighter, a sign of things to come.
At the very first time, it was just some rumor between players. Oh, is it getting bigger? No, I don't think so.
This was also when Square Enix announced that an entirely new version of the game had been in development since January, and that current players would receive copies of it for free. They also announced that players' character data and progress would be transferred to this new version, what they were then
The
calling
cell rack you
version
needed a home,
2.0.
yep.
A roadmap for patches was outlined, and it
my
was
wife.
announced that monthly fees would be reinstated as of January 2012, as an incentive for players to keep playing while
Ah, God, it's so tiny and scary.
the fees were introduced. They announced Legacy Campaign, which rewarded players who paid for at least 3 months of service with permanently reduced monthly fees. Those players would also get an exclusive Chocobo mount, while as a thank you
Bro, I love this documentary. Man, Chocobo? Man, Chocobo? Come on, man. Come on. Come on. Chocobo, dude. I love you. Beautiful doc, man. Chocobo. We're going to create a completely new Final Fantasy XIV. And so you have these people going.
14を全く新しいゲームとして作り直してますっていう発表を同時にすることで、どうなった
Huh? Are you going to continue updating this? What's going to happen?
このままアップデートしていくんじゃないの一体どうなるのこの先楽しかった
It
で
was
すよ
so much fun.
1.2 was the final patch of 2011. It saw all the servers renamed, while the moon Dalamud now seemed larger in the sky. 1.21 came in March 2012, introducing a new job system and 2 new dungeons. 1.22 followed in April.
Dalamud is so ominous. It's look at it. God, that's horrifying.
Dalamud grew closer, and now some players are beginning to have nightmares. Ominous dreams greet players who log into the game while at an inn. The community all the while trying to figure this out. Is the moon going to destroy the world? Then how will player data be saved in 2.0? They wouldn't have to wait long for answers. That summer, a trailer revealed that 2.0 would be titled A Realm Reborn, and Yoshida-san conducted numerous interviews explaining the future of the game and the features players can expect. On September 12, 2012, the final patch for 1.0 was released. The game updates to 1.23b, and with it comes an enormous
Yo, I can't imagine logging in and seeing that. That must have been crazy at the time. I mean, this is never before done. Seeing it as it happened, like in retrospect, I can say, oh yeah, what a great idea. That's so cool. In the time though, imagine this game that you've been playing that's been updated and suddenly it's going to end and be reborn. You see a moon falling from the sky. Ooh, chills.
Alamut, its mechanical outer shell now in full view. Players now realizing that this world didn't have long left. On November 1st, 2012, a final in-game battle began. Square Enix made entry free for the final week of the game, while a haunting song can be heard playing on the wind across the entire realm. While the server struggled to deal with the load, players got together with their friends one last time, as the development team in Japan spammed enemies outside capital cities. One group of players
The Great Gubu Wall! The Great Gubu Wall will go down in history. Controversial opinion. I want those little free company flag icons next to players' names again. I'd like to see a toggle of it, yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't want it on mine, but like having a toggleable one sounds kind of cool.
Outside of Gul'da has become legendary, attempting to protect the city with what we now call the Great Gubu Wall.
Oh, I'm definitely going to Smokey.
Right before Dalmud hit Elzir, we had to do some chaotic situation to the existing world. So what we decided to do
And
is...
again, they do make mention of to the wall, pay honors to those who stood. Yep, I do remember seeing that reference in the quest.
To spawn the strong enemies at the near the main cities. Even when I popped the very strong, I mean, Manticore or the mobile or the giant monsters, players kill instantly.
Right.
Yeah, instantly. Yeah, just snap. So, oh Jesus. So you killed my monster again. So what we can do is just keep spawning the lots of monsters, and then in very late night when I was doing, I mean, keep spawning the monsters. The one programmer just, I mean, I've never talked to him before, but just coming down to my desk and then just give me a bit of paper with some numbers, which numbers I can understand. This is the number of the certain monster.
Okay.
I can type in so that, I mean, I can, then I can.
Bro, all day he's trying to kill the players, and this one programmer he's never talked to passes him like the black box. It's like, all right, use this as your ultimate trump card.
Can spawn a very new, stronger monsters. Oh, thank you very much. It's the programmer. So that was a very fun moment.
You were like playing God.
At first, I felt like God. Hey, players, can you beat my monsters? But no. I was very weak God.
They were God.
Yeah, they were God.
So it was then, on Sunday, November 11th, 2012, just over a year after Final Fantasy XIV was originally launched, with Dalamud hanging in the sky, that the servers were finally turned off. And as they did, a trailer dropped, showing players what was to become of their old home.
Louis Soir! Music. Oh,
Well,
chills.
I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, you had something that not a lot of people liked, and everyone wanted to forget about it. So rather than, just taking that and doing it over, and just reimagining it, why not destroy that and start over? If we leave too much of that original core there, then it will just linger on as that kind of cancer that, will always bring us back to that failure. Why not just clean the slate? But on the other hand, and this is where,
Thanks, Flash.
things kind of got complicated, is that, no matter how bad the reviews were and how many people bought the game but then left the game, there was still this core of players in both Japan and, Europe, North America, that were passionate about the game. In the state that it was, they were passionate about the game. They were passionate about the series and their characters that they had created and were now living in this MMO. And so, it would have been easy to just say, okay, bye guys, But if you do that, then you've basically alienated the only group that stuck with you, for all of those years. When everyone else is slamming the game and talking about how bad it is, I mean, those guys were troopers. They would go on the forums. They were defending, the development team when a lot of times we didn't deserve defending. So that idea to wipe the slate clean, but not make it something completely new, make it something that was connected in some way to that to the old game. The decision made by Yoshida-san to, okay, let's bring down Balamud, destroy the planet, destroy the realm, but then bring it back. Figuring out a way to make that happen within the current story. Make it feel natural. Make it feel like that was always the plan. Was the biggest challenge, I think.
The team at Square Enix had worked themselves to the bone, not only recreating Final Fantasy XIV in A Realm Reborn, but also by dedicating time and money to ensuring that 1.0 players felt part of that story. The moon, Dalamud, had crashed into the world of Eorzea. That world was gone forever. And only one question remained. What was going to rise out of its ashes?
Whew. Man, noclip makes such good documentaries. Damn. Damn. All right, chat. I apologize. I'm going to be ending stream here. I wanted to finish up the documentary, but I'm in a lot of pain right now, and I apologized. I apologize for cutting stream early, but I need to go take some meds and lay down. My arm is on fire. But I'm going to be live again tomorrow. Don't worry. We'll finish up the doc tomorrow. Sorry that it's going to be a little bit delayed. But I'll be live tomorrow around 12 p.m. EST. So I'll see you then. Once again, sorry. I hate having to leave early, but ow. I love you all bunches. Thank you for hanging out. Fighter, thank you for coming in. Nude chat. I get what you mean. My arm also needed surgery once. Hey, it's rough. If you want to join the Discord, Fighter, you can see when I go live, but I will be live again tomorrow. Hope you all have a great day. Kisses. Mwah. Bye, everybody. Bye.